Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you about the 4% rule. So the 4% rule is a really simple, easy calculation that anyone can do that essentially works out how much money you need saved up in investments to allow you to retire. So the very basic principle is essentially that if you have X amount invested, 4% of that you withdraw is enough to sustain your way of life. So this can then be adjusted, so you can adjust how much that total amount is based on what you need. So it's basically working backwards from how much you need to survive to calculate how much you need invested. So one important stipulation is that, of course, the type of retirement can vary the amount of money. So you can go for a full out retirement as is kind of traditional, which is at 65, you essentially kick back and go, right, my working career is over. I'm now just going to do a few occasional things, maybe some volunteering, and I'll go on holidays every now and then throughout the year, but most of the time you spend at home relaxing. For me, that's not the kind of retirement that I want to do because it's not, psychologically, it's not mentally engaging. For most of the time, if you're just sat at home watching TV or not going out and doing something interesting, I find that I get bored very quickly. It's something that I think people will have learned during this lockdown, is that when you can't go out and do stuff, or when you're not going out to do things, you can get bored incredibly quickly. So one assumption of this is basically, for my calculations, is working out that hybrid retirement where, sure, you can spend most of your time relaxed and not doing much, but you can work when you want to and you can use additional income from, for example, consulting or YouTube or whatever to supplement your income. So that's one way of kind of thinking about this hybrid retirement idea. So simply put, the 4% rule essentially says if you invest X amount of money, then you want the 4% of that. So you want to take 4% of that total value, and that's the money that you'll live off for the year, whether that's £15,000 a year, £30,000 a year, £100,000 a year. The 4% is that amount of money. What you can then do is work backwards and say, well, if £30,000 is 4%, what's the X amount total I need invested for 30 years? So over the last 30 years, for example, the S&P 500 index has returned 7.53% on average per year. So if you've got an investment that is growing by 7.53% per year, then you can take out 4% of that per year, and technically your fund should always continue to grow. Now, of course, that doesn't hold 100% true because in certain years the market underperforms, and in that situation you're actually ending up with potentially losing some money. If it only grows by 2%, for example, and you're taking out 4%, you've made a 2% loss. But the reason that you go for 4% instead of the 7.5% average growth is so that on average, when you're taking out that 4%, there's enough cumulative interest behind that to wipe off any poor performing years, which means that you've always got a small factor of safety. Now, of course, you can adjust this rule and go to 3% instead of 4%, but 4% is kind of a generally accepted moderate risk for how much you can take out. So another assumption, of course, is that the dividends that are paid out by your investments also cover the potential losses that you might have to inflation. So say, for example, the inflation rate is typically between 1 and 2% every year. Your account will have dividends that pay out between 1 to 2%. So that essentially writes off any losses that you have. So then what you can do is, once you've got that 4%, you can basically run the numbers backwards to work out exactly how much it is you need. So one thing that I find quite interesting is starting off figuring out how much I need to set that initial goal as. So how much do I really need to retire on? Well, of course, that depends on your lifestyle, and it depends on what your different costs are. So whether you've got a family, a mortgage, different things like this. But one thing that I find interesting is that the average retirement age in the UK for men is 65. At 65, the average workplace pension actually only pays out £15,080 per year. Now that's not a whole lot of money. Now I'm assuming that for the most part at this point you've probably got a decent bit of accommodation sorted. You may not have finished paying off your mortgage, but you might have covered most of your mortgage at that situation. So that kind of makes up for the low ball amount of money. But if you want to retire younger, say you want to retire at 30, 35, 40, anytime, quite young, it's likely that you probably won't have paid off a mortgage on any building that you're living in. And so including a little bit of extra money to help pay for mortgages and things like this is quite important. So a ballpark figure that I've set myself is that it would be nice to have kind of £30,000 a year as your 4%, so that you can then use that to pay off, and that can be used towards a mortgage contribution and to pay off any other things you want to do during your retirement. And then, as I said, with the hybrid retirement, you can then supplement that with income from consulting or YouTube. So say £30,000 is the 4% that you want. Well, that means that you need £750,000 invested into an index fund to allow you to take out that £30,000 per year. Now, of course, you can adjust that, so you can go slightly higher or lower. If you go to £40,000 per year, then you're looking at roughly £880,000 that you need saved up. And then you can kind of set your target scaled on how much money you want to retire on per year. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, £800,000 in investments, that's insane. That will take me 100 years to save up because I can't save that much money. But if you go and watch my video, which is titled How to Become a Millionaire by 50, then what that does is that essentially lays out a very simple plan that you can put into action, which if you can save £460 a month and put that into an index fund, then over a 30-year period, that will essentially accumulate up to over £1 million, and that will be completely tax-free because it's all done through ISAs. So if that kind of shows a way that you can scale up, because the thing with retirement is, for the most part, it's a long way in the future. For most of us out there, we might not make our millions in our 20s or 30s, but realistically, if we can look at retiring at 50, that still shaves 15 years off of the average retirement age in the UK. So you can then, of course, using the method from that video, increase your investment. And if you increase your investments and how quickly you can build that asset, then that also changes the year at which you can retire. So say, for example, you find a way, you get a really well-paid job, or you manage to reduce your costs massively of living by house hacking or by reducing your rent and your food and all these bills, then if you can save up that money quicker, then all that does is allow you to retire sooner. So that's one thing that's quite important to remember, is that sure, you've got this target number that you need to reach, but laying out a plan of how to reach it is really important. And you could actually set yourself a target to, let's say you go, well, realistically, I might be able to get £750,000 in 25 years. Well, set yourself a target to do it in 15 years and work harder. Now, realistically, you might not be able to get to that number in 15 years, but you'll probably be a lot further along the way than you would have been in 25 years. So maybe that as you go along the route and kind of time step them so that you can try and achieve your goal sooner and achieve that top amount of money that you need in order to retire. Now, one thing that's quite important to remember is that obviously the 4% rule is not guaranteed. As with anything to do with the stock market, it's never 100% guaranteed that you'll turn a profit, and it's never 100% guaranteed it will grow by as much as it's stated. Now, the good thing is that you've got the power of empirical data, so you can look back at the past 30 years and you can say that the S&P 500 index, for example, has returned 7.5% per year averaged over those 30 years. So you can kind of use that to provide a measure of exactly how realistic this target is. So the good thing about the 4% rule really is that it takes age out of the equation of retirement. So what you can do with this is you can work out an amount of money that you can sustainably keep taking money out of, and it will continue growing. So the way that it works is, as I said before, you work out that target number so that you can take out 4%, and if it grows at the average of 7.5%, you'll never lose money, which means that over a period of 10, 15, 30 years, you should still at least maintain your initial investment, if not see some growth on that investment. So what that allows you to do is essentially target a point of retirement which is based on the monetary term, not the age. So then all you have to do is figure out how you can get to that amount and how quickly you can get to that amount, and that'll dictate when you can retire. So that's essentially the basic outline of the 4% rule, is that it takes age out of the equation of retirement, and what it gives you is a target amount of money to reach to allow you to invest. And then once you've reached that point, you can essentially drop back and say, okay, I'm retiring, I'm going to call it here. Or if you feel like you want to keep working, you can keep working and adding to that. And then what you can do is that will give you more money to take out during your retirement as that 4%. If you can add an extra £100,000, then the extra 4% gives you an extra £4,000 a year to play with. So that's kind of the whole premise of the 4% rule. And you can put it into action yourself and start working out now when you're young exactly how much you will need to retire and what's the best way you might be able to reach that. If you want some more information on the 4% rule, I'll put some links down in the description that you can go check out. So that's all about the 4% rule. If you did like this video, don't forget to hit the like button down below, maybe subscribe if you're new around here, and of course leave any recommendations for new videos or feedback in the comments down below and I'll check it out. And on the off chance that you do want to open a Trading 212 account, there's a referral link down in the description as well, which you can click and you'll get a free stock worth up to £100 when you sign up. And that's pretty much it for today, and as always, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.